Record to cloud, that's easier. Okay. So here we go. 19. Are people sending me emails using Canvas? Please don't. Just send me emails using email. Everything I get in Canvas, I get twice. It's a pain in the ass. So one, people have been asking me, you know, should I give you the printout when we are in person? And the answer is no, I almost never want to print out. So let me see, what was due today? The first things, a week to do things, so the first things were due today. So here is the homework that was due today. Pick 2 articles and summarize them. That is 4 to 5 sentences that convince me that you read it. It doesn't have to cover every detail of what the article said, just convince me that you know the gist of the article. And then some vocabulary words. It doesn't have to be in your own words or anything like that. Just if you copy something, then give me a URL. People done these separately, together, it doesn't matter. And then the first lab was due today, and that was just that sort of copy and paste lab, and send me screen captures and email them to me. Okay, the lab 2, which is not due until Thursday, is the interaction where you design a layout that asks a few security questions and then collects the user's answers. And that, again, at that point, I was still just asking for screen captures. But if you want to send code, that's fine. And that is due Thursday. Now we're going to, I posted a new homework similar to last week's, and that there's some, pick 2 articles and summarize them, and more vocabulary. I'm going to run out of vocabulary words very soon, but once we get enough programming behind us, then the homework will probably turn into write programs. And if they're small programs, I might have 2. If it's larger programs, it'll be 1. So we'll see. Okay. Any questions before I start going all over new stuff? Okay. So I said that you'll start sending me code, and so you have to know how to find the code that you've written to send to me. So I want to show you, at least on my machine, where that is. Okay. All right, so where are my Android files? Okay. First of all, what files are we interested in? In the beginning, we're going to be interested in the Kotlin file. That's where we write our code. And the layout file, that's where we set up our interface. We have played with the module. If you, on my computer, I'm at home now, as you are, or somewhere, not at school. Then if on this computer that I have right now, I don't have to modify the build.gradle. I don't have to change those 31s to 30s just yet. But so I'm not asking you to send me a build.gradle. You might have to, if you're at school, you might have to modify that file. But if you're at home, you might not. But there'll be times later in the semester where we will have to explicitly modify it. And then when you explicitly modify something, that's when I want you to send it to me. And the same thing goes for what's called the Android manifest. That's where we will set permissions and such. So those are the files that we explicitly edit. And then when I have you write some code and I want you to send it to me, those are the files that I want you to send to me. Okay. So for me, I just accepted all the defaults. Some like that, just put it where you want to put it. And so for me, when I installed Android Studio, it set up that my projects go in users, Blum, and then it made a folder there, Android Studio project. So it's not in my documents. So and my computer tends to open documents right away, so it's not there, but I have to go to the C drive and find users, and then find me, and then find Android Studio. I can't say that yours is like that, but that's how mine was, and I was on Windows and just accepted default stuff. So I'm just going to start digging down through like Hello World, our beginning program. It's not quite Hello World, but so I'm digging down. I was in Android Studio projects, then I hit the Hello World file, and I come across a build.gradle, but it's not that build.gradle that we edit. So if you remember when we talked about the build.gradles, there was like a project and a module, and this is not the one that we edit. So not this one. Here's the one level down in app. So it was Android Studio projects, then Hello World, which was the name of my project, and then app. And then there is the build.gradle, I'll call it the module build.gradle. And so there I am out in the file system, right-clicking and opening the file in Notepad++, and then I'm showing it to you also within Android Studio. So it's the module build.gradle, and there it is. So that is something not now, but at some point then I may ask you to send me, because you may have to explicitly edit it. So you'll be proving to me that you did the necessary edit. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, the next thing down is the Android manifest XML. So now I was in app, then I go to source, then I go to main, and in main, you'll find the Android manifest XML. And if you were over in Android Studio, the manifests are sort of near the top if you have that sort of project pane open. And this is the thing, when we have various permissions, when we start doing things with the internet, we will have to say to give the app permission to go to the internet. That's when we will need that file. So we will be explicitly editing this file, not yet, but at some stage. So now we know where it is. Okay, now something that you have explicitly, if you've started, say, lab 2, or even just in the copy paste lab, you sort of, you changed it just through copy paste, but you did change it. The layout is under main, there is a res for resources folder, and then under resource, there are other resources other than layouts, and we will use some of them like have images or text files or what have you. But at this stage, we're interested in the layout is something that we are explicitly changing. So that's something that you will send me. So that is in Android Studio projects, Hello World, app, source, main, res, layout. These things are very deep down. And we know where it is in Android Studio. It's under res layout. And then the code that we write, our Kotlin code, is under main Java com example. If you remember, your package had that name, com.example.hello world. So those are folders within the system. And there it is under Java com example hello world main activity over in Android Studio. So those are the files that we want. You will sort of pull them out and send them to me. They should be zipped up. It's weird that our email system will not worry about the .kt file, even though that's explicitly code. it will worry about the XML file. That's the one that the email system will choke on if you try to send it to me without zipping it up. Okay, so that's what to send me. Find those, the XML, the layout XML, and the Kotlin.kt file. That's what from now on, starting with lab 3, you will be sending me. Again, lab 2 can be. Now it's also possible, if I show you hello world here and the properties, it's 28 megabytes and it's 500 and some files. If I go down into the app, let me go back one. If I go to the app, it's still pretty big, 400 and some files, 24 megabytes. If I look at source, now we're getting to something sort of reasonable. And main, even more reasonable. So if you want to not pull out individual files, but send me some file structure, then if you get down to the level of source or main, it's manageable, that it's not too big of a thing that the email system is going to choke on. So that's another possibility. Instead of sending me individual files, you can send me sort of this folder structure, but you have to get down far enough into the folder structure to make it small enough. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. So basically, shared clear is basically me pretty much from the previous time I've taught this class, answering a question that came up on security questions. So in some ways, I'm solving the security question problem for you. I'm like that. If you ask me how to do something, I'll almost do it for you. So, but you don't, that's not what I want to do. That's what I want to do. But it's not a good idea, especially at such a beginning exercise, to take away your own experience of building a layout, because if you don't learn how to build a layout in these first labs, that's one of the main ideas, that you just won't learn what you need to know. Okay, so I want to show you this code. And as I say, this is basically the security questions. Did I open it up? Oh, there it is. What? I'll call it security questions. And here's the layout. Now, once that Gradle builds, maybe I'll paste it in, but here's the layout. And the question that had come up is that I asked you, because I'm like that, when the person types in the box to clear out the answer. So they typed in these edit texts the answers to some questions, and then if they changed any answer to an individual question, I wanted my sort of concatenated answer result to be cleared out, because they're changing the data. I don't want them to make me look bad. And so, but there were a number of questions, and the person might change any one of those answers. And so then the question was how to get the clearing code to, instead of repeating the clearing code, instead of writing 3 clearing codes, to sort of get it to be done once and for all. So I have here a text view, which is what the user just sees this, and I put in the text of question 0, and then I gave it an ID of TV question 0. And then here's the corresponding edit text, which has the ID of ET for edit text question 0. And then I did the same thing with 1s, and then 2s, and then 3. So I have 4 questions, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have some button, which when the user answers 4 questions, they're going to hit the button. And then I'm going to display the concatenated thing here in this final text view. Okay. I don't know if I'll build it or not. I'll build it if you force me to build it. Okay, say that. So the explicit questions were not put into the layout. I just I had TV questions to display the questions and ET questions for the user to put in their answers, but no explicit questions were asked. So here are the questions. I made them an array. So city of birth, mother's maiden name, pet name, first car. So here are my connections to the interface. So I'm using find view by ID button, and my button had the ID of button enter, and my final TV text view had the ID of TV result. So those are this sort of the single things down at the bottom, the one button, the one, I'll call it a label. Okay, now here's the clicking, the button clicking. And you remember now that I don't have, I didn't do this yet for the edit text. I'm going to try to treat them as a group, but the approach I'm using here, the grouping works explicitly on the way I gave them IDs of edit text question 0, edit text question 1, edit text question 2. Okay. So I'm just popping up a toast to say that I've clicked the button. So it's just sort of to help me see what's going on. This toast that I do indeed have a button click event. This is probably the one, this 38 is probably the one I showed you with the word this, but sometimes the word this doesn't work. At least one of my students ran into it. Might be somebody from the other section. And so what this first thing is context. And so when this doesn't work, when this is not somehow finding the right context, then another possibility is to put in their application context. So that's like a nice backup to have in your mind somewhere. So for when this doesn't work. Okay. And the error message might point to the wrong place. The error message might point here or here, but often the problem with the toast, if you've checked, then you have 3 arguments and you remembered the show, and you've imported the toast, then this is like the funkiest thing, the thing most likely to go wrong. Okay. I'm looping over the edit texts here based on, again, I named them systematically, ET question 0, ET question 1. And so I set up a for loop, and the I is going to go through 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So this is a for loop in Kotlin. And instead of setting it to start at 0 and go up to including 3, you make this range of numbers 0, ... 3. I am grabbing my resource. So I'm not going to go, I want to do it in a loop. So I'm not going to go to ET question 0, ET question 1, one by one. And the way I can do that is go to resources, get identifier. I'm concatenating ET question and this I. So it's ET question 0, then 1, then 2. That thing is an ID. And then I'm just working within the package. So what the package does, it looks like when we were looking at the folder structure, it looks like it's a folder, and that's sort of true. There was a COM folder and an example folder. But what the package does for you is sort of define like where your names that you've introduced make sense. It gives you what's called the namespace. So we're looking for this identifier within the namespace of the package. That's what this is saying. Then we are grabbing that, casting that view as an edit text. So we've seen find view by ID before. We've seen the edit text before, but this used to be r.id.et question 0. So when you're dealing with it one at a time, you can do that, but this is a way to deal with it sort of in a loop. And then I'm taking the string of that text and I'm adding these vertical bars. And so I'm constructing the user answers. And then I'm pasting the user answers. I have an extra delimiter at the end. I have it every time I'm in the loop, I add a vertical bar. So I have an extra vertical bar. So this drop last one drops that last vertical bar. Okay. So that is when you click the button, looping over and getting the user's answers. So instead of grabbing the answers one at a time, because of my systematic naming, I could do it in a loop. I'm outside of the click now. So this is just when I set up. So I could have put this above the click, it doesn't matter. The click, because it's a listener, waits for an event. This code down here is just part of the onCreate. So when I make the interface. When I make the interface, I am, again, looping 0, 1, 2, 3. I am getting the edit texts, and I have a view, and so, and then this is a little out of order. Then I add a text change listener. Then, so that was the point of this. It was not to have, in my case, 4 clears, but to write 1 clear. So here is me writing the code, the clearing code, but associating it with this view, but I'm looping through all the possible views. So that's one approach. We'll probably learn another approach ultimately, but here's a looping over all the views and adding the text change to it. And then here is another, here are the TV questions, and here is me using my array of questions to set the text of the questions. So again, I did not put the questions in design, I'm putting them in here in code. This is sort of in one place. So I'm not repeating this code over and over again. So everybody gets, each edit text gets its listener that clears out the answers. But I didn't write this code myself 4 times. I just wrote it once inside the loop. Any questions?
Yes. What exactly is override fun?
Override fun. Okay. That's part of the vocabulary this week, so I'm doing your homework for you. Okay. When you have an interface, then, or sort of any method, let's go down to the, oh no, we could see it here in Click, but I sort of, I'm working with the version of Click where it's hidden. Okay, but I didn't do it here. Okay, so we're creating an activity, and an activity has a main activity that class, somebody else, actually somebody wrote this class, the app compat activity. Somebody wrote a class for me and it has methods. One of them is on create, and that it tells me I must make my own version of it. So so on create is the method that I'm responsible for. If I'm going to use their activity class, then I'm responsible for making it on create. And there are others, other things possible in the life cycle of an app, like what happens if what happens on delete, but I'm not responsible for them. I just can ignore the other ones, but this is the one I'm not allowed to ignore. Function is just a shortening of the word function. So we're just saying that there's a method or function on create. And override means that I'm making my own version of it. So there's a version of it that doesn't do anything. They're forcing me to make my own version. And so the override is saying it exists, but we're making our own version. This is just says that its function on create is the method that we're responsible for. Anything else? Okay. So that was that. Okay. What comes next? So that was an old version. You should not just send me that version as your version, because the main purpose of Lab 2 is for you to learn how to make a layout and do this basic connecting your code to the layout. So if you just cheat and send my version to me, you're going to miss important basic skills. All right. Now, what do I want? All right, so a restaurant calculator. That's our next one. All right, I'm probably just going to not build and run these, but just show you this code. But if you say, I don't know what it does and I'd like to see it, then I will do it. So let's see what the interface looks like. A text view is, again, something that just has words. We can change those words in code, but the user can't change those words. And in this thing, I'm just going to say, here's the bill of you went to a restaurant, you had a dinner, and then they come back with the check. And so you want to figure out how much to pay because you also want to tip. So this is the bill amount. So when you get the check from the server, then you will enter the bill amount. This is just prompting for the bill amount. Then here's the edit text where you can type it. We see here that it supports certain input types. So because this says number decimal, that means it's going to accept a number. So I can't type the word cat, but the number can be a decimal. So I can have, $34.25. So I can put in 34.25. It has a hint. In my hint, I put a $sign. That's probably wrong. I don't know that this would accept a $sign. The hint sort of fills in. It's different than text. If I put the text as 25, then the person would have to erase the 25. So they would see a 25, but they would have to erase it. If I put it as a hint, as soon as they put their cursor there, then it's sort of cleared out and they're ready to type without them doing any deleting. It does look a bit like something's already there, so it can sort of sometimes have the bad result of fooling the user. Okay. Then there is the tip percentage. So again, this is just sort of a label. Here's a place for you to enter the percentage. So there's a hint of 20, so they know not to put in 0.20 or something like that. Like, especially percentages are, we need to communicate with our user what we want. And then there is a button which they click when they're ready to do the calculation. And then there are two text views, one to show the actual tip amount, just the tip amount, and then the other to do the total. So if you were going to leave the tip on the table, then that is separated out. If you're going to put it all on your credit card, then there it is added up for you. So that's the purpose of the calculator, to calculate the tip and then to add it in. So that's the design. Label edit for the amount, label edit for the percentage, button to do the calculation, two labels to show the answer. Okay. If you were to build this, you would see that I wasn't very careful. Some of these imports would be in a very light gray because they're not being used. And if I were being better, I would have said, oh, I'm not using that, and take it out. So sometimes along the way, you end up importing things. Again, I tell you, I never typed these things, but I had changed my mind on what I was doing. And I ended up with some imports I didn't need, which I should have taken out, but I didn't. Okay. Here's the on create. We're creating the interface. I'm just establishing some variables I need, the bill, the tip, the total, their doubles. I'm connecting to my interface. So the ET was edit text for the bill. For the percentage, I'm going to code the tip amount and the total amount. So that and the button. I was playing around with doing something with the whole constraint layout, but then I didn't do it. So that's commented out. Here is my button click. Okay. So I am trying to go to the interface, get its text. Text goes first to string, and then that can be converted to double. And this can go wrong. So we said that we wanted a number decimal, but maybe they didn't type in any numbers at all. Or maybe it allows us to type a dot, and maybe somehow we got away with typing 2 dots or something. Somehow this casting as a double may go wrong. So that's why I have it in a try. And then down here is the catch. Then I just have it as a toast and say, like, enter a number for the bill amount. So maybe they were fooled by my tip and thought, or sorry, my hint. And maybe they thought that was already entered. Or maybe they just didn't type an amount, or maybe they typed a dot and no more. So they typed something that was, they either typed nothing or they typed something that was allowed, but it's not quite a number. So this could fail. So hence the try catch. I'm getting the tip again, getting the tip amount from the text to the string, converting it to double, dividing it by 100, doing the calculation of the tip, of the total, and of the tip, and displaying those things with some formatting. Then here's my usual clearing out. If they change the tip, clear things out. And if they change the bill, clear things out. So I didn't combine them like I just did in my previous example. I wrote them separately. And then here's me playing around saying, here's a new want to indicate to the user which box they're in. So I only did this for the tip. So if they're in the tip edit text, this is a light yellow. There's all red and all green, all red and all green make it yellow. And then these two sort of things combine to make it sort of a lighter yellow. And so if they're in the box, so this is a focus event. And P1 is a Boolean, whether or not it has the focus, and P0 is the thing that has the focus. So I could have, these were just the default names that sort of came when I stole it from somewhere. But this might be better said, it's the edit text view or something like that. And P1 might be has focus. So we could probably have better names here. but this P1 is a Boolean and it's about focus. So it's whether or not we have the focus. And so we ask if we have the focus. And if we do have the focus, we're setting the color to this light yellow, and otherwise we're setting it back to white. Questions? I haven't asked you to do this at any point, but I just threw it in fun to show you other. Usually on tests, and I usually stick with the standard, what in my mind are the standard events, clicking buttons and changing the text, but there are other events and other event handlers. Questions? Okay. All right. We showed the file locations. I did shared clear. I did restaurant calculator with 2 edit texts. Now I'm going to show to you with a set of radio buttons. And where to go there? Okay. So again, I'm doing this same problem, but I'm going to handle the tip differently. I'm going to give you some set percentages of like 10, 15, 20, 25% tips. And you have to pick one based on radio buttons rather than entering it in an edit text. But the first part didn't change. The prompt for the bill amount and give a place for them to type, the edit text for them to type. It's of the number decimal type so that they can type numbers in there and hopefully nothing else. Then we're going to have our radio buttons. Radio buttons give you a choice, which you can pick. It may be possible that they didn't choose any, but once they make a choice, then they can make one and only one choice. So it's like a no choice or a one choice are the possibilities from radio buttons. So they can only pick one tip percentage. Okay. Not in this example, but in other examples, there may be multiple sets of choices. You might choose a color and a shape. So you can have a set of radio buttons to choose the color and a different set of radio buttons to choose the shape. And so there's this thing, this container known as a radio group, which says that the radio buttons within the group function together, and they are a set of choices from which you can only choose one, or at most one. Okay. And there's going to be, it's not just purely a container, there's also going to be some functionality associated with the group. So it's a thing for when there are multiple groups, but also there'll be functionality associated with it. So we give it a nice ID, RG tip, to when we're coding it, we know that it is and these all belong together. All these things belong to the radio group, and that it's the radio group associated with the tip. Okay. This is a container radio group. So when you're doing XML, which is like HTML, I'm presuming that most of you said, I think you had JavaScript or HTML and JavaScript, so you've seen some web pages. This guy, being a container, has an open and a close. So this is the open, and then down here is the close. So things in our containers usually have open and close, whereas a radio button is a singleton. And so there, it doesn't have a close, it has a slash close angle bracket. Okay. So here's the radio button for that goes in there. It says, this is what it says, 10%. I've given an ID and I've given it a tag. So if I work with the text, I'm showing the user that this is 10%, so I put in the percent sign. And then, but the tag is something that you don't see, but I get to use behind the scenes, and it's more convenient for me to use the 0.10 behind the scenes. So no percent sign and already divided by 100. So the tag is like a useful behind the scenes, like hidden compartment. So I have 4 radio buttons for 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%. They're all within the radio group, so they function together. Once I choose one, I can have none of them chosen, that's how it will start. And then once I choose one, if I choose a different one, then the first one will become sort of unselected, deselected. Okay. Then I have a button that I had before to force me to do the calculation. And then the 2 text views to display the tip and the total. And remember, in this layout design, what we talked about on Tuesday was that you should have everything should be at least constrained horizontally and vertically, or it's going to complain. Okay. So that is the layout. So the edit text where they could enter their percentage has been replaced by a group of 4 radio buttons with sort of set tip amounts, tip percentages, and they then choose one. Okay. So here is the code. I think I was better here and got rid of the imports I wasn't using. I am connecting to the interface. I have a connection to the edit text for the bill amount, for the radio group, the TV, the text view to display the tip, text view to display the total, and the button. So this is me connecting to my interface. Here's me working with other variables I need. So I'm going to have a variable for the bill, a variable for the tip, a variable for the total, and I'm going to have a tip index, so an integer. These can change in the course of my program. That they may enter the bill, then they may change their mind and re-enter the bill. So these are vars, these can change. These are vals because once I make the connection to, what I'm really establishing here is a connection between interface and a code corresponding to the item in the interface, the widget. And so that once I make that connection is set. Doesn't mean the user can't change what's in the edit text. They can, but the connection is not going to change. That's what I mean here by val, and it's not going to change. Whereas here, var, these things I expect to change. Here's my button click. The difference is going to be the radio button. The percent part is going to be a radio button. Here is my I'm going to try catch again because certain things could go wrong. But one thing that could go wrong was the casting of what was in the edit text to make sure it's a double. But if it does work, then that will become the bill amount. Here I work with the radio group, and I'm asking for the ID of the checked radio button, and I call that tip index. If it is, they do a standard thing, not in all languages, but it is sort of standard across a number of languages. Then if you've searched for something and you don't find it, then you get a -1. So if you is checked and none of them are checked, then this will end up to be a -1. So I have an if on that. If the tip index is not -1, I'm going to carry on. But if it was, so that brings me to the else. If it was -1, then I'm going to say you can choose a tip amount. Okay, so now I know which radio button was checked, but I want to know the percent that goes with that. So here I am getting a radio button, text view by ID radio button. So far up here, I worked with the radio group. Now I'm working with the radio button. And I only do that for the radio button that they select. So I didn't go up above and add all my when I connected to my interface, I didn't make a connection for each individual radio button. I'm only doing this sort of on the fly for the radio button that they chose. So here I'm making a radio button. We said it had that secret compartment called the tag, and I'm using that so I don't have to divide by 100 and get rid of a percent sign. So there's my tip. There's my total, which is 1 plus the tip times the bill. And I'm displaying the tip amount and the total amount. So this is how you interact with a group of radio buttons. Find out the index, find out if if the index is -1 or not, and then get the corresponding radio button from the index. Here's my usual clearing out if they change the bill amount text, which is an edit text. So this is an old thing we've seen before. And now they might change their tip amount based on the radio buttons. And again, we're going to work with the group, the radio group. So if that's changed, if what's changed within the set of radio buttons, this event gets called. And I just wanted to access the radio button, I don't know, to show off. And so I said, so this is sort of the new radio button that you're picking. And I said, I just toasted it out. Maybe I want to do some styling. Maybe I want to highlight the one they chose. But I just wanted to show that even though I start off with the group, I can always figure out which radio button within the group is the one that sort of brought me here. And then I'm clearing out. This is them changing the tip amount. So this is me clearing out the answers because they're changing the tip amount. If they want me to redo the calculation, they have to re-hit the button. That's a user decision. We could, again, since we have this event, we could use this event to initialize the calculation and just redo the calculation immediately instead of clearing out the answer. I tend to do a clear, but some people will change instead of clearing out a bad answer, we'll just get the new right answer. I don't know, I tend to clear, but this is, it's the same in terms of the same events get you there. So, and that's what I'm trying to show you is how the events work. Any questions? Because I think we're pretty much done, except I will show you what the lab is. Almost the same thing, just change the names. Here is the potato calculator, okay. So you, in your favorite lunch spot, you like to get a baked potato. The potato has a certain size. So there are small potatoes and big potatoes. So we're going to have an edit text where the person can enter the size of the potato. We're going to assume it's in ounces and it's between 5 and 12. So you can do some ifs in your thing and say, oh, that's too big of a potato or too small of a potato. Or then you're going to have radio buttons for some toppings. You can have more toppings, don't have fewer toppings, but so there are some toppings. You might have nothing. You might have butter, sour cream, or chili, and then we want to calculate the calories for the potato. That depends on the size of the potato. A bigger potato is going to have more calories, but it also depends on what you put on top. So if you had a 6-ounce potato, you would say 6 times 25. And then if you put butter on it, you would add another 100. So it's going to look like what we just had, a edit text for you to enter the size of the potato, a set of radio buttons for you to choose a topping and then a button to perform some kind of calculating. So grab the size of the potato, grab the topping, do the calculation, display the result. Any questions? Okay. Again, one more time. Any questions for the recording? And I think the person who reminded me to record, I'd be mad if I forgot, and I usually do. All right, I'm going to stop recording. Stop recording. Okay.